speaking of empty and corrupt, we have Michael Knowles here.
And elitist, thank you very much.
Elitist, yes. Yale graduate Michael Knowles, the host of the Michael Knowles Show, which is absolutely excellent. You actually, I hate to say it, but you actually do an excellent job on your show.
If I weren't so extremely tired and hungover from this delayed flight last night, I would blush. Almost.
But I have to just tell this one thing, because I saw your fiance Alyssa over the weekend. She was at a party that I was at, and now I have to explain this to the audience. Michael is the star, the performer of Another Kingdom, which is and we hope you will go on iTunes and subscribe and rate it and pump it up, because it really is, it's doing really well. It's got over like 500 5-star reviews now, and it's really you're becoming a star. Pretty soon you'll be able to abuse women, and
I actually did purchase in New York this weekend the bathrobe that I hope I can grow into.
just a few more 5-star reviews, and you should be ready to bring women to your hotel room. So one of the great mysteries of life is that Knowles is engaged to one of the nicest women I have ever met, one of the sweetest human beings. I mean, in some places they walk around asking why we're here, who is God. The Daily Wire, we walk around saying, how did Knowles score Alyssa? It's unbelievable.
It's evidence against divine justice.
It is, and evidence against divine justice. There's no question about it. But she is the sweetest, and she has this sweet little voice, she says, hello, how are you, that kind of thing. But every time you do her voice.
Yeah, I don't think you did it right, Drew. It's usually something to the effect, like, I got in late last night, and Alyssa was there. She stayed up late because she was nervous about my flight. So I walk in the door and she goes, oh my goodness gracious, where have you been? Oh no. Right? And listen, I'm a trained actor, but I'm pretty sure that's an accurate representation.
So every time Knowles does this voice, every single time I turn to him and say, how did sweet little Elisa, how did she get that voice? That's not the way she talks. So Knowles is doing all the voices on Another Kingdom, and there is a character, because it takes place in this kind of bizarre world, there's a character who is a rat, but it's a mutant rat with a woman's face. So I said, well, give her like this mutant rat voice, So he does that voice for the mutant rat, and Alyssa says to him, you're using my voice for the mutant rat.
Mike, I cannot believe that you would use my voice for that rat. So I did send that over to Drew.
So I walked over to the party and said, it's not your voice. You don't sound anything like that. Anyway, it's all, you guys are weird, too weird for me. I can't even understand how this happened in a moral life.
It certainly isn't logical in any way. But yeah, very lucky. I guess it's evidence against divine justice, but for divine mercy.
That must be it. So you were at your alma mater, dear old Yale.
I was at dear old Yale. I was at the institution formerly known as Yale.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yale, a former university. And I was there for the Buckley Program because my senior year, senior year, they founded at Yale the William F. Buckley Jr. Program for intellectual diversity on campus.
Right.
And I was one of the inaugural fellows of it. And at the time, they thought, we're noticing at Yale there's a slight anti-conservative bias here. And they had no idea what would happen within the next 5 or 6 years as professors started getting fired for suggesting that 18-year-old students can choose their own Halloween costumes.
Yes, that really happened at Yale.
This all really started to happen. So I've missed the dinner a few years in a row now, but I was able to make it back this time, and I'm glad I did, because my year they only had a handful of student fellows. I represented about 40% of Republicans on campus. So there were not a lot of us, and now they have, I think, 54 student fellows there. And so I was able to speak to some of them, freshmen all the way up to seniors, and I said, wow, I had no idea that there were 54 conservatives or Republicans on campus. And a lot of them said to me, we're not Republicans. We at least we didn't think we were Republicans. We came here thinking we were Democrats and liberals, but Yale has apparently so radicalized these students because of how absurd their leftism has become that they are now only finding intellectual solace at the conservative right-wing Bill Buckley program.
That's really, that's kind of what I've been talking about all day. Ronald Reagan said this. He said they can't help themselves, so don't worry when they take power, because they will become leftists and alienate everybody, and I think that's what they're doing.
We see it. There was, I think, 2 weeks ago, last week or 2 weeks ago, there was a group of student protesters who demanded that the Yale Investment Office divest from a construction investment which would have allowed a transmission pipeline to be built to transport hydropower energy from Canada to the United States. Not oil, not natural gas. We're talking about hydropower because some forests might have had to be cleared somewhere.
Wow.
That is, I think a week before that, Yale students decolonized the English department. I don't mean just some protest. They got the English department to, quote, decolonize, not just diversify. If they were to diversify, they'd offer some poets that are probably not very good, but they're obscure, and you know, it's like a Sicilian Uzbeki woman or whatever. But this wasn't that. You can now graduate from Yale with a degree in English and not read Shakespeare.
Is that true?
That is true.
See, that is a genuine failure. That is genuinely failing, letting down the people who are paying you to educate them. That you have not studied English if you don't read Shakespeare. And if you don't read Shakespeare a lot, I mean, you should really read the complete, if you're an English major, you should read the complete works of Shakespeare, because everything you think comes from Shakespeare, whether you like it or not. Even if you disagree with what you think, it comes from Shakespeare. And I think that is a genuine failure of Yale, and shame on them.
And that requirement, it was because previously, if you wanted to get a degree in English at Yale, you would have to take a course called Major English Poets.
Right.
But they were very upset because it turns out that many major English poets are English.
And major, yeah.
And major. Yeah, so that was, and you bring up that they're really getting ripped off because they're paying $60,000, $70,000 a year, and they're not learning anything. But what's amazing, especially about the protests over investments, is that as of 2012, and it's increased since then, 57% of Yale students received financial aid. I paid very little to go to Yale.
Yeah.
Back when I went, it was even up to 50% then, I think, or a little under. So all of these curricula are being subsidized by the people that the students are then vilifying, the ones who are paying for their education.
Of course, yeah.
And there was even we saw this in May. There was a hunger strike, a symbolic hunger strike.
I remember that.
Because Yale graduate students are allowed to unionize for some reason. I have no idea why, but they're allowed to unionize.
Yeah.
But that wasn't enough. They're not allowed to unionize by department, so they're not allowed to have these like 6-member unions. As a result, they went on a hunger strike where whenever you get hungry, you can eat, but otherwise it's a hunger strike.
That's hilarious.
If you're a student at Yale and you're seeing that, you come, you think you're a liberal from Connecticut or something, you show up, you say, oh yeah, I'm a Democrat, and you look at this chaos around you, you look at a university in flames, basically.
Right.
There is no way that you could help but seek out some academic seriousness.
So what did they talk about at the dinner?
So the dinner was on the Constitution and the courts.
Nice.
It was on, actually Kelly Ayotte, the former senator, was there. And she basically talked about being the Sherpa for Judge Gorsuch, for Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch. And it was a very, I think many people would go there and say, this is so boring. We're talking about the Constitution.
Yeah.
This is so boring. We're talking about constitutional law and history and how our government works. And it's not nearly as exciting as burning down buildings. It's not nearly as exciting as marching and screaming.
I miss,
I know, that's right. But it was, there's always a theme every year. And this year the theme was the Constitution and the courts. And it was probably one of the few serious looks that Yale will offer on that throughout the year. And I think it was no coincidence that the conference was forced to move off campus to a hotel right nearby because it was just too radical to have a former U.S. senator talk about the courts.
What is your show about today?
So the show today is about our great Mikado, virtuous man, President Donald Trump overseas with Shinzo Abe, and the wonderful confluence. The fake news was turned up to 11 this whole weekend.
I saw that.
That was a real joy. I had a lot of time to read the news as I was trying not to sleep at the airport yesterday. And also, I'm sure you might have caught this, Donna Brazile seems to be validating right-wing conspiracy theories about Seth Rich.
Hilarious.
So we'll explain what that means.
I know.
We're going to find out at the end of this whole thing that Donald Trump is the great virtuous man. We're going to be in the upside down.
And that Hillary Clinton literally shot Seth Rich.
Yeah, that's right. Hillary Clinton with her hands while she was on the phone with Vladimir Putin. That's right.
All right, the Michael Knowles Show coming up. It's good to see you, Knowles. I'll talk to you later.
Good to see you.
All right.